Shocking truth, how prehistoric humans survived 3 a.m. nightmares in a world gone dark. In the pitch-black heart of an ancient night, where the shadows danced like restless spirits, prehistoric humans were gripped by terror. This was no ordinary night, it was a haunting battleground where nightmares thrived. Every rustle in the underbrush sparked raw panic. Eyes opened wide, hearts raced. Did the snap of a twig signal death? Or just a hungry predator lurking in the gloom? This was survival, and every moment in the darkness could spell the end. As night enveloped their small tribe, bizarre occurrences heightened their fear. The air crackled with an energy that whispered secrets of creatures unseen. Legend told of ominous shapes just beyond the flickering firelight. Stories of flickering eyes, as bright as dying embers, stalked their dreams, taunting them. How did they endure this frenzy of horror? Would they be swallowed whole by the jungle's embrace or succumb to the monstrous nightmares waiting just out of sight? The tension grew thicker than the musky stench of humid air. Nervous whispers bounced off jagged rocks. What if the shadows are watching us? One voice trembled. Faces turned pale, and a shiver ran through the group, fear plastered on every face like a second skin. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in that dense wilderness, desperation sunk its claws deeper. Had something shifted in the air? A rustle turned to a soft growl, and suddenly the tribe felt like prey in a twisted game. The unyielding grip of fear strangled their breaths. There was a time where laughter rang, now, shock rippled through the group as a blood-curdling scream ruptured the midnight silence. It wasn't just a nightmare anymore, it was real. And yet, there was a flicker of hope, a spark blistering against their fears. What if they banded together? They would fight through the darkness hand in hand, confronting the terrifying unknown. With shaky breaths, they prepared to face what lurked beyond the firelight, the shadows promising either victory or demise. What awaited them in the dark? In the stillness of that breathless night, the air grew thicker, suffocatingly potent with dread. The tribe huddled closer around the flickering fire, their hands clenching branches and stones, primitive weapons against an unseen enemy. They exchanged glances, eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. Would the myths of old come to life? Would they see the faces etched in memory, those who never returned? Suddenly, from the darkness beyond the fire, piercing eyes emerged. A set of glowing orbs, like liquid fire, watching them intently. Gasping echoed through the group. This was no ordinary beast, the eyes shimmered with an otherworldly essence. Were they being hunted, or worse, the prey in a grotesque ritual? One brave soul stepped forward, trembling but resolute. Kira, who had witnessed countless dawns, felt the weight of her family's past resting on her shoulders. If we stand together, the night cannot claim us. She shouted, her voice trembling but firm. The sound sliced through the gloom, a plea for unity amidst rising panic, yet her words barely hung in the air before the tension shattered into chaos. The growl that had lingered morphed into a deep, menacing roar, an echo bouncing off the trees that felt like a scream resonating in their bones. Panic descended like a thick fog. They turned as one, seeking the source of that terrifying sound, hearts pounding in unison. Then, without warning, a massive silhouette burst from the underbrush, a creature unlike any they had ever glimpsed. It was colossal, its body rippling with muscle, covered in dark matted fur, the very embodiment of nightmares incarnate. Instinct took over, and the tribe scattered, a chorus of terrified cries filling the air as they fled into the treacherous shadows. Kira felt her feet pound against the soft earth, her breath catching in her throat. Would they survive this night? Their ancestors had fought like warriors, but could they match that ancient strength? They darted through trees that seemed to loom like giants, grasping at them with skeletal branches, beckoning them back to the warmth of the fire, back to the safety they craved. Behind them, the creature pursued. The ground shook beneath its weight, thudding like a heartbeat, rushing, relentless, and all-consuming. They darted into a narrow ravine to hide, gasping as their bodies crumpled against the cold stone. A momentary refuge, but even here, the fear gnawed at their resolve. What lay in wait for them? A frantic whisper broke the silence. "What if it's not just a beast?" one of the hunters breathed, pain etched across his face. "What if there are others? It could be more than a simple night hunt." The icy tendrils of fear wrapped tighter around their hearts, suffocating hope as images of lost friends and chilling stories flooded their minds. As the creature roamed nearby, they could almost feel its breath, hot and heavy, igniting the night with terror. Would they make it through till dawn, or would they be forever lost to the legends of the dark? In that moment of uncertainty, the firelight flickered, and Kira's heart raced. A plan ignited in her mind, a desperate gambit. "If we lure it back to the clearing," she whispered, locking eyes with the remaining tribesfolk. Would they summon enough courage to confront their worst nightmare head-on? The shadows around them quivered, echoing dread and a culmination of unspoken fears. As the beast roamed closer, everything hung in a delicate balance. What were the risks they must take? And even more chilling, what if the creature was not the only thing watching in the darkness? The silence deepened, punctuated only by the creature's low, ominous growl. Heartbeats drummed in Kira's ears, a frantic rhythm that matched the pulse of fear coursing through the tribe. They knew they had only moments to act. Shadows danced as they huddled in the ravine, tension thick in the air. "We need to create a distraction," Kira urged, her eyes darting toward the trees, considering their options. "Maybe we can set a fire, something to draw it away from us." "But what if that makes it worse?" Another voice trembled, uncertainty dripping from every word. They were faced with a choice: take a risk and fight, or stay hidden and hope for mercy. "I'd rather face that beast than die here in this hell," Kira snapped back, her voice holding a fierce edge. Resolve coursed through her as her throat tightened. They were not just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for their very existence, their heritage, everything they held dear. One brave soul, an older man named Rowan, stepped forward, eyes aflame with the same determination Kira felt. "We'll need to move in pairs. If we can draw it away long enough, we might find an escape route." His voice steadied others. They nodded, courage building amidst the palpable fear. Kira felt a spark of hope amidst the chaos. "Let us go." They climbed out of the ravine, moving stealthily towards the edge of the clearing. The creature's growl echoed louder, a sinister resonance that made the ground tremble beneath their feet. Kira's heart raced, the thrill of danger mixed with the horrifying possibility of death drawing her forward. As they neared the trees, they slipped behind the underbrush, adrenaline heavier than the night air. With a shaky hand, Kira gathered dry leaves and small twigs, her mind racing. She lit a match, the flame flickering to life, reflecting in her wide eyes. It was a small light against the overwhelming darkness. Rowan sensed her intentions. "You think it will work?" "It has to," Kira replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She could almost feel the creature's gaze like fire on her skin, a predator aware of its prey. The desperation driving her made her feel invincible, but she knew better than to underestimate what lurked in the shadows. As the fire caught and began to crackle, she felt a rush of satisfaction. The heat surged upward, illuminating the space, casting long shadows that danced like lost souls against the tree trunks. Kira stepped back, the flames licking higher, and they emerged briefly into the clearing, sending a signal to the unseen terror that chased them. The growl intensified into a cacophony of snarl and rage. They decaptured its attention. Kira's breathing quickened as she motioned for the others to scatter. "Move! Now!" Bolting away, the sound of dry leaves crunching underfoot echoed like thunder. The beast lunged towards the flicker of the fire, its massive shape blending into the shadows, a living nightmare unleashed. Kira glanced back. The chaos swallowed their cries as the creature barreled into the clearing, tearing through the flames. The sight twisted her stomach with terror. But just as hope surged again, Kira spotted another glimmer in the depths of the forest. More eyes, not just the beast's run. She shouted, heart pounding louder than ever. As the tribe fled deeper into the night, Kira couldn't shake the dreadful realization if more eyes were watching, it meant they weren't alone. What else was out there, waiting in the blackness of the woods? Every step carried them closer to the unknown. They were not just fighting the creature, they were tangled in something far more sinister. What awaited them ahead? Would they find refuge, or was the true nightmare just beginning? Kira's heart raced as fear gripped her. Panic surged through the tribe, each person feeling the weight of what lurked in the shadows. She bolted past Rowan, pulling him along. We can't stop. They're coming for us. The trees loomed ominously, a twisted maze of dark branches and thick underbrush. Their breath came in ragged gasps as the growls grew distant, but Kira couldn't shake the feeling of eyes tracing their movements, waiting for a moment of weakness. Where do we go? Rowan panted, desperation lining his voice. Anywhere but here. Just keep moving. Kira replied, unwilling to assess the danger behind them. She glanced over her shoulder, the flickering firelight was swallowed by the night. Ahead, something glimmered, a faint light flickered through the trees. Was it hope? Or another trap? Kira felt compelled to venture towards it, a magnetic pull she couldn't ignore. This way! She called, veering off the faint path. The tribe followed reluctantly, every stride forward demanded more from her body. Twigs snapped underfoot, echoing in the thickening silence. The unsettling quiet felt wrong, like the calm before a devastating storm. She chanced another look back. The growls had been replaced by distant rustlings, whispers of unseen horrors reevaluating their prey. As they crossed a small clearing, the light ahead grew brighter, beckoning them like a lighthouse in a storm. Kira's stomach knotted tight. If the light was false, it could lead them into danger. But desperation pushed them forward. Arriving at the source, Kira's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't merely a flickering light, it was a cluster of glowing mushrooms, luminescent and ethereal, casting an eerie glow over the ground. Shadows danced around them, almost tauntingly. The scene was beautiful, yet it reeked of danger. Are we safe here? One young woman whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Kira hesitated. I don't know. But it doesn't feel right. Rowan stepped closer, broken branches crunching beneath him. We can rest for a moment. Gather our strength. Before Kira could argue, a loud crash echoed nearby, snapping their attention. The noise came from the direction they fled. Closer than before. There was no chance to breathe. They had to decide quickly. Let us move. If it's following us suddenly, the ground trembled, sending vibrations through their feet. A guttural roar erupted, shaking the leaves overhead. The enormous shape broke through the brush, but it wasn't the only beast in the woods. Other shapes emerged. Some on 2 legs, some on 4. All with eyes reflecting the unknown light. Sweet mother! Kira gasped at the scene before them. They were surrounded. Back to back. Rowan shouted. The tribe huddled together, their breaths mingling in the chill of night, hearts slamming against their ribs. What are they? Someone whimpered, terror flooding the group. I don't know, Kira whispered, scanning the area. They had to be smarter this time, there was no room for mistakes. What if these creatures were just as desperate? What if they weren't here for blood? Rowan's voice broke her focus. On my count, we head toward the river. Don't look back. As the growls morphed into snarls, Kira knew one thing: survival demanded courage, but the truth was they may have stumbled into the heart of a nightmare. Right now, the only choice was to move, but would they find salvation or surrender to whatever hunted them? The river promised safety, but could they outrun the monsters that surrounded them? Kira's senses surged, every muscle, every instinct screamed at her to fight. Now. She cried, sprinting toward the unknown, but with each step into the dimness, shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, and uncertainty gnawed at her. What if the true terror was lurking just beyond their escape, and then it struck her, if survival was possible, what kind of horrors awaited them in the light? Kira felt the weight of fear rearing its head, a visceral grip tightening around her throat. She darted through the underbrush, the world around her blurring into an array of dark shapes and frantic branches. The pounding of her heart filled her ears, and she stole a glance back. The creatures, those fearsome beasts, surged closer, their growls a terrifying soundtrack to their frantic escape. "Rowan!" She screamed, desperation ringing in her voice. "We can't let them catch us." Behind her, the tribe surged forward, their faces etched with terror and exhaustion. The eerie glow of the mushrooms faded quickly into the darkness, swallowed whole by the night. Kira barely felt the branches clawing at her arms. Every urge within her was to push harder, run faster. It was as if the forest itself conspired against them, rooting them in place, making escape feel impossible. "Keep moving. We must reach the river," Rowan shouted, his voice steady, a beacon of strength amid the chaos. They barreled into another clearing, breathless as the moonlit water shimmered in the distance. Hope flickered inside Kira, but it was quickly extinguished by the cacophony that erupted behind them. The beasts had picked up their scent, their guttural howls echoing like a grim symphony. "Faster!" Someone gasped, their voice laced with panic. Kira's legs burned, muscles screaming as she pressed on, feeling the rush of adrenaline as they sprinted together. She could feel the tribe rallying, clinging to survival as the collective fear pushed them onward. They zigzagged through the trees, Kira leading the way, determination fueling her every stride. Without warning, she stumbled. A root snagged her foot, and she fell hard to the forest floor. A piercing scream threatened to escape her lips, but she forced the sound down, heart hammering as shadows rushed past her. "Get up! Kira, now!" Rowan's voice cut through the noise, urging her forward. Panic surged again. She scrambled up, her hands muddy and trembling as the shadows crept closer. Fear gripped her by the spine as she started running again, propelled by Rowan's shouted encouragement. But the sound of claws on the ground seemed to draw nearer, and with it came an unfamiliar scent, sweat and blood. They reached the riverbank, where the water glistened cold and inviting under the moonlight. "What now?" one of the tribe asked, fear etched into their features. "No choice, we jump," Rowan ordered. Kira felt a chill wash over her. Jump? Into the dark, unknown waters. But fear pushed away the hesitation. She clutched the hand of the nearest friend, forcing the others to gather as they formed a chain of defiance against the monsters pursuing them. "On 3. Rowan yelled, and Kira counted with him, heart racing as echoes of growls surged back, sinister whispers from the shadows. 1-2 times seemed to stretch, unbearable tension swelling like a tide. In that moment, Kira glimpsed the shadowed figures' shapes thrashing and writhing, eyes reflecting the eerie moonlight and the glow of those dreadful mushrooms. 3. They leapt together, plunging into the river's icy depths, the water enveloping them in darkness. Kira gasped, fighting against the pressure, the cold pressing on her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. She surfaced, gasping for air, flailing toward the shore, but the river carried them, tugging them away from the land. The growls echoed faintly above, fading as she was swallowed by the rushing current, but a new terror clawed at her heart. What awaited them beneath the water? Would they be met by the monsters or find refuge in the unknown? As they fought against the current, Kira felt the dread of uncertainty creeping back. Rafts of shadowy figures were rising on the bank, looming ominously over the river, watching, waiting. What would they do now? Would they keep running, or was there something lurking in the dark depths too? Kira's thoughts churned wildly as a sudden force pulled her under. And then, silence. What other secrets lay beneath the surface of this cursed river? Kira's lungs screamed for air as she struggled in the depths, the icy water wrapping around her like a suffocating embrace. Panic surged through her. The river's current pulled her downward, a relentless, dark tide that swallowed her whole. She twisted and turned, trying desperately to find the surface, but it felt like a cruel game, one she couldn't win. Just as her vision blurred, her fingertips grazed something solid, a rock. With a surge of determination, she clawed at it, propelling herself upward. Light burst back into her world as she broke free from the water, gasping frantically. Kira. Rowan's voice shattered through the darkness, anchored in the chaos around her. She turned, eyes wide as she spied him a few feet away, battling the current just as fiercely. With instincts firing, Kira reached for him, her fingertips brushing against his wrist. The connection solidified her resolve. Together, they struggled backward toward the bank, the roar of the river threatening to drown them. She could see the shapes above, dark silhouettes looming, their breath visible in the chilling air. A sudden snap of branches erupted from the shore, making Kira's heart leap into her throat. The beasts hadn't given up. They were here, closer than ever, their ghastly growls rising above the sound of rushing water. Get to the bank, now. Rowan yelled, his voice cutting through their shared fear. Kira's instincts kicked in, and they pushed through, hands finding purchase on the slick stones by the river's edge. With a final, desperate effort, they lunged together, collapsing onto the ground as water cascaded from them like shattered glass. The chill didn't dissipate, though, it only grew as they turned to face the river. Shadows writhed along the rocky bank, and she felt the eyes on them. Those beasts, they were here, and they could smell their fear. Kira, Rowan started, his voice low, we can't stay here. Around them, the tribe began to surface, one by one, faces etched with dread. What do we do? Someone whispered, eyes darting nervously to the fog rolling in from the depths of the forest. Run back to the trees, Kira urged, the thought igniting her courage. We'll find shelter. We have to, but she was interrupted. A rippling sound broke from the shadows, and one of the creatures emerged, a hulking mass with glistening fangs and eyes like burning coals. The air turned heavy with terror as everyone froze, the reality of their situation crashing down around them. No! Shouted someone from the tribe, the panic evident as they stumbled back, tripping over each other. Kira's mind raced, deciding in a heartbeat. Climb! She shouted, pointing toward a nearby cluster of tall, gnarled trees. If we can just reach the branches, we might be safe. Using adrenaline as fuel, they bolted toward the trees, breathless and wild-eyed. Climbing as fast as they could, they scrambled like frightened animals, grasping at the rough bark. Kira felt the rough texture tear at her palms, but she didn't let the pain distract her. She was acutely aware of the beast still prowling along the riverbank below. An eerie silence blanketed the moment, even the growling stills. All that remained were the nervous breaths of her tribe echoing against the stillness. That one hold them long, Rowan muttered, staring down into the darkness. Kira's thoughts raced. Time was running out, and she could feel it in her bones. What did that creature want? Why were they being hunted so relentlessly? She couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far worse. A rustling below caught her attention, and her heart dropped. The moment shifted, filled with dread. They weren't hiding, they were being cornered. What's next? Kira whispered, her voice barely audible. The shadows twisted and shifted, reshaping, morphing into something they had not seen before. A heavier weight of fear draped over her shoulders, the uncertainty of what lurked just out of sight gnawed at her mind. The water had concealed secrets, dark things that could drown them if they weren't careful. And above all else, Kira felt trapped between the beasts and a dark fate clothed in the folds of that cursed river. What awaited them on the other side? What truths would rise to the surface when the time came? A low growl rumbled from the shadows, vibrating through Kira's bones. She pressed her back against the rough bark as the creature prowled closer, a monstrous silhouette against the dim light of the forest. The others were tense, their breaths shallow like a soft wind that barely rustled the leaves. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in the silence, building an unbearable tension that felt as real as the very branches they clung to. "What is that thing?" someone whispered, fear sharpening their tone, eyes wide. Kira glanced around, desperate to gather courage from her tribe, but the fear mirrored in their faces only deepened her own trepidation. Rowan's hand tightened around the branch he clutched. "Whatever it is, we can't stay up here forever," he said, his voice a strained murmur. "We need a plan." Silhouetted against the shifting shadows, Kira could see the creature below, muscles rippling under dark fur, its fangs catching the last glimmers of light like daggers reflecting the dawn of doom. It sniffed the air, searching, and Kira held her breath, staring at its glowing eyes. Those eyes seemed to promise a violent end if they were caught. "No," she breathed, meeting Rowan's gaze in a desperate plea. "We can't let it find us. We have to distract it somehow. What if we throw something?" Another tribesman suggested, his voice tremulous. "Maybe we can lure it away." "Could work." Rowan mused, looking contemplative. "But what do we have?" Kira's mind raced, recalling the supplies they had abandoned near the riverbank. If they could just slip away unnoticed, they might gather stones or branches. But was it worth the risk? The answer was painfully clear: if they stayed put, they'd eventually be found. "Follow me," Kira said, determination hardening her voice. She wasn't letting fear dictate their fate. The moment they descended felt surreal, the descent echoing in their minds. Every rustle underfoot set their hearts racing, tiny debris crackling like shattered glass. Rowan took the lead, eyes darting around for the lurking monster, while the rest followed, gripping onto branches as if they were safety lines tethering them to hope. They glanced back each step, dreading the moment the creature would pounce, but their fears twisted into something unexpected. Kira suddenly froze, her heart pounding as something shifted in the trees. She swore she saw a flash of movement behind them, a massive shadow, but it didn't appear to belong to the beast below. "Go!" Kira hissed, her instincts screaming. They couldn't afford to be caught in this moment of distraction. Primal instincts kicked in, raw energy fueling their flight. They scrambled into the undergrowth, every heartbeat driving them faster. Kira's body ached, limbs protesting as branches sliced at them like shards of glass, but adrenaline fueled their escape. The shadows consumed them, wrapping them in darkness that shielded them from prying eyes. As they reached the edge of a clearing, Kira turned back. "We can use these rocks," she shouted, excitement bleeding into her voice. She hurriedly picked up bits of stone, thrusting them toward another tribesman, who quickly joined her. Then came the sound. The low, chilling growl returned, bigger and closer. Kira's heart began to race again, and she caught Rowan's eye. On 3-1-2, before she could say 3, the creature burst into view, snapping at the air like a raging storm. It had sensed them, it was right there, massive and terrifying, its gaze locked onto her. "Run!" Kira screamed. They threw stones behind them, hoping to distract the monster as they darted past it, hearts pounding in unison, mixing fear with the wild hope of escape. With every breath, it felt like they were running towards certain death, but Kira refused to let go of that glimmer of hope, knowing they would have to confront whatever lay hidden in the depths of the dark forest. But as they neared the trees, another sound cut through the chaos, a rumbling growl that didn't belong to the creature below. It spoke of something familiar and yet more chilling, a voice from the shadows that sent an icy shiver down her spine, the truth of what lay beneath, and the terrible fate awaiting them if they couldn't escape. What other horrors lurked behind those trees, waiting for the moment they would make a single mistake? The forest was a swirling mass of shadows, each tree knotting together like gnarled fingers reaching out to snatch the terrified travelers. Kira ran, the adrenaline pressing against her chest like a heavy weight. The growls echoed around her, a chilling chorus of menace. Her feet moved as if guided by an unseen hand, propelled by raw instinct. Beside her, Rowan kept pace, his face pale in the dim light. "We shouldn't have come here," he gasped, breaths coming in hard bursts. "We should have stayed at the village." Kira shot him a hard look. "And let the monster take us there. We're safer out here." But in her heart, doubt coiled tight. Had they truly made the right choice? Her thoughts spun like the branches overhead, each turn filled with uncertainty. As they darted into another thicket, Kira could feel the weight of eyes on her, cold and calculating. The creature had gained on them, the ground trembling with each of its monstrous strides. "We need to split up," she yelled to the group, a major gamble that could either buy them valuable seconds or seal their fates. "You crazy?" Rowan shouted back, desperation mingling with defiance. "Together, we have a better chance. If we can confuse it." Kira began but was cut short by another growl, closer now, more furious. The sound sent fresh chills racing down her spine. Without more time for hesitation, Kira pointed into the tangled brush. "Now! Go!" The group broke apart, scattering into the foliage like startled birds. Kira ducked behind a thick trunk, holding her breath as shadowy forms moved past her. She risked a glance over her shoulder. The creature's massive bulk was now charging through where they had just been, snarling, snapping. Then came that other sound, some kind of rustle, louder now, but not from the direction of the beast. It was deeper, darker. Kira squinted into the heavy shadows, her heart hammering. What was lurking just out of sight? "Over here." Rowan's voice cut through the night, filled with urgency. Kira's heart surged. "Rowan!" she whispered, darting towards him. She found him crouched low, breathing heavily near a faint glimmer of moonlight shaking through the leaves. Behind him lay a small excavation, what appeared to be an old cave entrance. Shadows danced across the stone, flickering and alive. "We can hide in there," he panted, and Kira felt a flicker of hope. But what if a thunderous crash interrupted her? The creature had turned, its eyes roving, scanning the trees with intention. It was hunting them. Kira grabbed Rowan by the arm, tugging him toward the cave. "Now! We have to go." As they slipped inside, darkness enveloped them, thick and suffocating. The air was stale, laced with something ancient, almost primordial. Kira pressed her back against the cool stone wall, heart racing as she held her breath. Rowan did the same, his eyes wide, pupils dilated in the dark. They listened, breaths mingling, foreboding filling every inch of space around them. The growl echoed outside, shifting, fading. This should have been a moment of respite, yet it felt ghastly. The cave whispered of secrets long forgotten. "Do you think it left?" Rowan murmured, chest rising and falling. "I don't know." Kira felt trapped, uneasy. And that other sound, it wasn't human. And as if summoned by her fears, the growling returned now from within the cave. A skittering sound followed, like claws scraping against rock. The air thickened, heavy with dread. "Rowan," she breathed. There were more things lurking in the shadows, things that had stirred after centuries of silence. A sudden crunch echoed from deeper within, chilling any idea of safety. They were not alone. What had awoken inside the dark walls of the cave, waiting to reveal the fate of all who dared to enter? Kira felt the panic rise, her heart thumping in her ears. "We need to move," she hissed. Rowan's eyes widened, reflecting the fear coursing through her. They were enveloped in darkness, the kind that pressed hard against the skin, thick like fog. "It's just the echo," he stammered, but Kira could hear it, the scrabbling, the whispering, scratching at the rock as if something was inching closer. She felt the cold sweat trickle down her back. "Stay close," she whispered, feeling the doubt claw at her throat. But deep down she knew they had no choice. Whatever was creeping just beyond the shadows wouldn't let them hide untouched. Cautiously, they stepped deeper into the cave, eyes straining against the pitch black. The sound grew louder, a chorus of rasping, almost rhythmic. It felt alive. Suddenly, an unseen force rushed past them, a chilling gust that carried the unmistakable scent of decay. Kira recoiled, stifling a gag. "What is in here?" "I don't know," Rowan said, his voice trembling. "But we can't let it find us." Another noise broke them from their trance, a low growl, rumbling through the darkness like thunder. Kira held her breath, inching forward, feeling the jagged stone beneath her fingers. They took tentative steps into the murky abyss, desperate to find safety. "Look!" Rowan's voice trembled as he pointed toward a faint glimmer on the cave floor, something metallic, half buried beneath dry earth and crumbled rock. Kira's gaze followed, and she felt a spark of hope. "What is it?" Kira asked, her pulse quickening in anticipation. Rowan knelt to dig it out, his movements swift. With a few quick scratches, he uncovered a broken dagger, its edge dull but intact. "It's a weapon," he murmured, as if trying to convince himself. "Maybe it could help us." Kira's stomach twisted. "Help us how? Against whatever is lurking in here?" A shudder rippled through the silence. The growling grew loud again, frantic and desperate, now mixed with a screeching, high-pitched sound. Kira's heart raced, overwhelming her thoughts as panic surged like a wave. "We need to go, right now." They turned, moving toward the entrance when a flash of white erupted from the darkness, slashing through the shadows. Kira stumbled back, eyes wide, as the glimmer of a bone-white shape barreled toward them. It was the creature. "Run!" Kira shouted, adrenaline propelling her forward. Rowan gripped the dagger, ready but unsure, following her as they raced towards the mouth of the cave. With every step, the growls echoed in their ears, closer and closer, a dark promise of what awaited if they failed to escape. Kira's thoughts flashed back to the village. Had they made the right choice? The entrance loomed ahead, but as they neared, Kira caught sight of another shadow, shifting at the cave's mouth. It was another figure, its features indistinct, blending with the darkness. Kira froze, heart racing as she squinted against the light creeping in. "Is that?" Rowan hesitated, voice barely above a whisper, but before they could make out who or what it was, the growling escalated, melding into a cacophony of rage. The whites of the creature's eyes flickered into view, glistening with hunger as it bore down on them. "Run!" Kira screamed, tearing herself away from the sight, pushing past Rowan, heart pounding, lungs burning. The urgency of the moment consumed her. As they burst out of the cave into the open night, the forest wrapped around them, both a safe haven and a confounding maze. The growls faded behind them, but darkness still loomed, swirling with threatening whispers, as unease flooded every fiber of her being. With the moon casting erratic shadows, Kira turned to Rowan, breathless. "What was that? And who was waiting for us?" Just then, the familiar growling returned, vibrating through the ground beneath them. This time, the sound was paired with another chilling realization: they were not alone in this new darkness, something beyond the cave was hunting them with an insatiable hunger. "What do we do now?" Rowan whispered, panic evident in his tone. Before Kira could respond, a flash of teeth cut through the dark ahead, sharp and glimmering like bone in the moonlight. The chase was far from over. A new terror lurked beyond what they could see, and Kira knew the forest held secrets darker than anything they had yet faced. What had they really awakened? And how far would they have to run to find safety? The chase screamed through the night, intensity like a raging storm. Kira's legs drummed against the earth, pounding hard, each step a desperate plea for survival. The air was thick with fear, a tangible weight pushing down on her. She didn't dare look back, didn't want to know how close the creature was to reclaiming what it thirsted for: her life, her freedom. Rowan was at her side, his breath sharp and frantic. "We need to find shelter," he shouted, but Kira could feel her heart racing. All she wanted was to run. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows, each twisted tree a reminder of lurking dangers. Fatigue threatened to pull them down, but adrenaline surged the primal instinct to flee. Suddenly, ahead, a glimmer of light began to slice through the dark. Kira squinted, focusing on the flickering between the trees. Was it hope? Or a trap? Caution tugged at her, but desperation drove her forward. "There!" she yelled, pointing toward the light, heart racing anew. They could almost see a clearing forming, its edges defined in a soft glow. They surged into the space, nearly collapsing, gasping for breath. The sight before them churned her stomach. Towering stones loomed in a circular arrangement, ancient and carved with symbols that whispered of long-forgotten lore. The fire burned in the center, crackling to life like welcoming arms. "Is this safe?" Rowan asked, cautiously stepping closer, eyeing the depths behind them. The growls faded, but didn't disappear, lingering like a ghost just out of sight. Rowan kept glancing back, scanning the tree-line. Kira drew closer to the fire, catching her breath in rhythm with flickering flames. "It has to be, it's our only choice," she replied, forcing strength into her voice. They were a heartbeat away from the horrors outside, their fragility laid bare for all to see. Suddenly, they heard a rustle nearby. Kira froze, heart thundering as shadowy figures appeared from within the darkness around the fiery glow. The tribe, one by one, emerged from the dark foliage, their faces drawn, eyes wide and shining with fear. Were you followed?" Kira barely managed to ask, dread clawing at her heart. "No, but they're close," a voice whispered from the back. "I saw them in the trees." It was a woman's throat, trembling with exhaustion and raw anxiety. "We need to defend ourselves," Kira shouted, adrenaline revving back up, flinging herself into the momentum of protection. "Grab anything, sticks, stones." They rushed to gather branches and debris, the firelight flickering all around, creating twisted shadows that seemed to come alive. "Will it be enough?" Rowan's voice trembled, uncertainty mixing with their fear. He clutched the old dagger tightly in his hand, his knuckles whitening. "It has to be." Kira felt a surge of anger boiling within her. They couldn't let the shadows take them, not again, not tonight. "If we face them together, we can fight." But as the fire crackled, the shadows shifted, and that growl broke through the thick night, a bone-chilling promise of torment that the creatures would come. Kira braced herself, heart hammering. The growls drew close, resonating like thunder in the distance, beckoning with dread. Shapes loomed just beyond their vision, the terrifying creatures, driven by need. Kira clutched her makeshift weapon. They wouldn't go down without a fight. Every person around the fire joined hands, fear and fury intertwined. "Stand firm," Kira shouted, raising her weapon high, rallying strength within her tribe. "No matter what comes, together we face this nightmare, together we will survive." A deafening roar punctured the night, and one of the beasts pounced from the dark, hurling itself toward the fire's warmth. The air ignited with energy and determination as Kira and the tribe lunged forward, arms swinging wildly like flames dancing through chaos. The collision sent them crashing, their collective fear exploding into fierce defiance. They fought back, primal and savage, the night swelling with cries of desperation and courage. Kira felt the rush, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Every swing was a plea for life, every shout a testament to their unity. The shadows coiled and writhed, but they held fast, battling through fresh waves of terror. Then, in the culmination of struggle, just as hope began to flicker dimly, Kira felt a shift in the air. It was a sound not of anger, but of defeat. The creatures hesitated, snarls turning to soft whimpers. They began to retreat, sensing the resolute spirit of the tribe. Kira caught her breath, daring to dream. Could they truly turn back the terror? The night breathed heavy, tension slowly ebbing. The very ground thickened with silence, the creatures slipping back into the darkness. Hope surged like a tide. Kira glanced around, eyes burning bright. They had survived, defied what should have been insurmountable. As dawn broke, spilling soft light across their weary faces, Kira felt exhaustion creep into her bones. They had faced their deepest fears and emerged, scarred yet alive. She locked eyes with Rowan, the sense of camaraderie and resilience binding them together. "We did it," she whispered, feeling a swell of power as hope opened her chest. That ancient clearing, surrounded by friend and foe alike, they breathed new life into the dawn, a shared victory, a testament to the strength forged in darkness. Perhaps the shadows would always linger, but so would the light, reminding them of their courage when nightmares encroached, and just like that, Kira felt ready to face whatever came next, because with her tribe by her side, they could withstand anything. Don't let this story end here. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive tales that are coming your way. Smash that like button right now to show your support and help boost this story in the algorithm, and I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this gripping conclusion. What did you think of Kira and her tribe's journey? And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how courage can stand against the darkness. Only true fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions.